Now, moving to our panelists, Mr. President, if I can start with you. The Wall Street Journal has, on the day of your inauguration, which is not long ago, said anti-corruption crusader takes office as Guatemala's president amid unrest. Now, I would bet almost my life to say you did not try to cause unrest by trying to become president with an anti-corruption ticket. Why did it shake Guatemala that an anti-corruption hero becomes president? What happened?
Well, what was happening is that actually the fact that we were able to go into the second round and then go into the ballotage for the election meant that a corruption system that has been developed over more than 20 years, that has penetrated state institutions at every level, from the local level to national level, all the different branches of government, from the justice system to Congress to the executive, was in danger. Mm-hmm. And that was an extremely profitable system that actually there's a study published a couple of years ago at the Central America level that was making an analysis that stated that probably around 30% of the state budget is lost to corruption, which are enormous amounts of money. Money that goes into political criminal elites that have been able to organize themselves into political parties, and from political parties jump and co-opt state institutions and Congress and so on, and so begin to divert funds in a way that actually causes enormous costs to development, because we not only reached a stalemate, but actually began to regress in issues like health, in issues like education, like infrastructure. Mm-hmm. So that that system that they thought they had perfected to the point that most of the candidates running were part of the system, mm-hmm. and they came with different parties, but they were all part of this elaborated corrupt clique. It was challenged by a party that nobody saw coming in the elections, but that actually was able to mobilize the will of the people to just try something better and to come back and occupy the civic space. So basically, the unrest was not caused by us, because we went through a normal campaign convincing the people to come and that it was worth voting, but it was caused by the reaction of the system that then tried to they persecuted us politically. They tried to overturn the elections, and it was only the will of the people, the resistance that was led by the indigenous peoples, but that gathered everybody around, and the steadfastness of the electoral authorities that allowed us to actually take office about a month and 2 days ago.
It's really encouraging to hear that, and I think we're going to hear a comparable story from the Prime Minister of Bulgaria in a minute, and it's really encouraging to see that people can express their will still, even in systems that seem to have been perfected when it comes to corruption and being captured by corruption. Just staying in your region for one more moment, of course, corruption and these corrupt systems that really have taken governance and democracy away from your country for a long time, you've just regained that ground. That's not just an issue for Guatemala, but it's got a regional security dimension as well. Can you maybe talk a little bit about the relationship between regional stability, corruption, crime, and how that is affected? What can be done also in your region?
Well, Guatemala is part of a Central American region, but also connects to the North American region. And most of our challenges, both in terms of problems and opportunities, have a regional dimension. In our case, what we had is a very clear influence of transnational organized crime in the region, drug trafficking, but also human trafficking and illicit species trafficking, feeding into the political system and creating a vicious cycle. Because when you have corrupt officials, they are quite open to the type of big money incentives that transnational organized crime can put it on the table. And on the other hand, the transnational organized crime is interested in pushing politicians into office. So we got to a point in which we had mayors that had been elected by or associated with drug trafficking networks, with cartels, some congressmen as well. So we had the level of penetration that actually indicated that the whole political system in Guatemala was being eroded by this international dimension of crime.
President, please.
Yes, I would like to follow up something that I think it's underlines our interventions, but follows up explicitly to Kate's point. I think that the fact that we are giving very little attention to the issue of corruption in the context of a big conference on security is because we have not really recognized how much corruption has changed in the 21st century. I think that we were used to corruption being a problem of bad administration, nuisance, something that happened while people ruled. But actually we are facing now a situation in which we are seeing political criminal cliques organizing to actually take control of state institutions in order to actually really make them work for corruption, for crime. And this is a fundamental threat to the viability of democratic states. It's beyond a threat to the security establishment. I think that the case of Afghanistan shows it very clearly, that it caused the collapse of the state. And we are having in Latin America now cases in Ecuador, cases in Colombia, cases in Mexico, where we're witnessing the real threat that corruption is bringing to governance and viability of political institutions. It is no longer a nuisance. It is a direct political threat. Until we do not recognize that, we're not going to really be able to muster the energy, the imagination, and the commitment at the international level to fight it effectively.
Thank you, Mr. President.